Brian Trimble, 24, and Randy Peake, 25, were married on September 9, 2000. The newlyweds settled near Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Their family life seemed ideal, but everything changed in an instant. After 2 years of a happy family life, Brian began to notice that he was not feeling well. He often felt dizzy, his hands went numb, and he could stumble out of the blue. Trimble turned to a doctor for help and was given a disappointing diagnosis: multiple sclerosis. The man began to worry that Randy would leave him and find another healthy guy. However, the wife reacted calmly to her husband's illness. She knew what this disease was like. Multiple sclerosis is incurable, but with the right treatment, Brian could live a long, fulfilling life. Randy's mother, Nancy Chavez, said that she and her daughter often talked about this topic. Nancy asked Randy if she was really ready to spend the rest of her life with Brian. Mom believed that her daughter should be prepared for the fact that her husband might become incapacitated and use a wheelchair. To which Randy replied, "Mom, I love this man. I will stay with him and never leave him. This is what my life will be dedicated to, him and the children." Nancy realized that her daughter truly loved her husband. Mom accepted her daughter's choice. Randy got a second job to earn more money and save for the future. She understood that at any moment her husband could become unable to work, and she would have to provide for the family alone. Despite his illness, Brian continued to work. He worked as an IT specialist in an insurance company. It was there that Trimble met computer technician Blaine Norris. They immediately found a common language, but did not yet know that this friendship would change their destinies forever. Blaine Norris was married and had a son. He seemed like a good and kind guy to everyone. In school, an excellent student, Blaine was a scout, played in the marching band, and worked part-time at McDonald's. After graduating from school, Norris entered the university and successfully completed his studies. Blaine had a dream of becoming a film director and conquering Hollywood. Most of all, he liked horror films. In the 2000s, Norris began working on his own film, set on the Appalachian Trail in Pennsylvania, the longest hiking trail in the world. Norris was inspired by the success of the Blair Witch Project. This low-budget film brought its creators millions. Blaine was eager to repeat this success. He planned to make a horror film about a group of tourists dying one after another. Blaine was too enamored with his idea, but it wasn't enough. The man had virtually no experience as a director. After meeting Brian, Blaine told him about his dreams and plans. However, he admitted to a friend that working as a computer technician, he had no time for filming, and he also had no money. Trimble delighted his colleague by saying that he could help him. He offered his equipment for filming and agreed to become a cameraman. After this, the men became even closer. They soon found an investor who transferred $18,000 to Norris's account. Blaine immediately bought the props. He also chose the filming location and selected the actors for the main roles. 3 months later, Blaine Norris finished writing the script for the film. He called it Death March. Here's a brief description of it. 5 young tourists go on a hike. On the way, they are killed one by a ghost. Norris selected the actors and approved their roles. Filming was about to begin, but something didn't go according to plan. Brian Trimble's disease began to progress. The man said that he would not be able to work as an operator because it was difficult for him to walk along the winding forest paths. At the same moment, Norris was approached by an investor who asked to show him photographs of the actors approved for the roles. After seeing the photo, the investor said that the film would be a failure and said that if Norris did not change the operator, he would take back the money he had invested in the film. Norris refused to fire his friend. The investor took back $18,000. Blaine's dreams of filming a film and Hollywood success began to crumble, but the man did not want to give up. Norris calculated that he needed about $20,000 for the film. Trimble again supported his friend and said that he and his wife had savings. Trimble promised his colleague that he would talk to Randy and try to convince her to invest money in making the film. However, after talking with his wife, Brian received a refusal from his wife. She said that she needed a reserve of money for a calm life. Randy was a constant saver, putting every cent aside for unexpected expenses. The woman was able to dissuade her husband from helping Norris financially. In addition, after a conversation with Randy, Brian completely changed his mind about helping his friend as an operator. Instead of helping Norris, Brian and Randy went on vacation on a ship. It seemed that nothing foreshadowed trouble. At the same time, the frustrated Norris was not going to give up. He decided to make his horror film at any cost. Blaine took out loans to hire actors and buy expensive filming equipment. He even put his house where his wife and son lived up for sale. His wife began to swear, but Blaine did not give up, but continued to create the film. After a while, Trimble became completely bored. He began to think that Randy was constantly controlling him, telling him how to live. The couple began to quarrel and even turned to a family psychologist. After counseling, Brian and Randy improved their relationship. They also started planning a child. By that time, Blaine, with great difficulty, but still continued filming the film Death March. One day he returned home and discovered that his wife had taken her son and left their house. Norris, mired in debt, was left all alone. The only person he could turn to was his colleague and friend Brian Trimble. Blaine continued to believe that his film could bring success and money. After watching Norris's footage, Trimble was delighted. But at the same time, the man realized that he was under the strict control of his wife and could not help his best friend. Brian firmly decided that he was tired of such a relationship with his wife. And after a while, the man came up with a terrible idea: to kill Randy. Trimble decided that by getting rid of his wife, he would receive an insurance payment of $100,000, as well as the money that his wife had saved over the years of their marriage. Brian told Blaine about his plan. A friend supported him and said that this was a great opportunity to get funds to finish the film Deadly March, as well as experience the thrill. Trimble promised that after they got rid of Randy, he would give Norris $20,000. Blaine Norris agreed. Brian Trimble spent 7 months planning the crime. He calculated every step he took. Throughout these months, Randy continued to work 2 jobs. The woman did not even suspect that a real monster lived next to her. The couple did not use protection all this time. Randy dreamed of getting pregnant and tried to save as much money as possible. During this time, those close to the Trimble family began to frequently hear Brian insult Randy. He called her stupid, domineering, and said that his wife controls his every step and does not allow him to do anything without her consent. Shortly before the tragedy, Trimble sent Norris a link to a website that published step-by-step instructions on how to take a person's life. And now this day has come. On January 10, 2003, Randy Trimble spent the entire day at work. Her husband Brian went to a restaurant to meet an old friend. Norris entered the Trimble family's garage and waited for Randy. When the woman returned from work, Blaine attacked her from behind and tried to strangle her. She lost consciousness and fell. Norris then slammed her head onto the concrete floor and stabbed her 27 times. In the evening after dinner, Brian Trimble returned home and discovered a terrible picture. He called 911 and reported that his wife was dead. When police arrived at the scene of the tragedy, Trimble played the role of the grief-stricken husband. In their house, there were scattered things on the floor. It all looked like a brutal robbery. However, the police found out that the attacker did not steal anything, but only created an appearance. Detectives, realizing that the robbery was staged, believed that it was the work of Brian Trimble. When officers examined the crime scene, they found no fingerprints or DNA. Brian had an airtight alibi. He was having dinner with a friend at a restaurant about 40 minutes from their home. The waiters and Brian's friend confirmed his alibi. But despite this, detectives had no doubt that Trimble was involved in the death of his wife. Detectives soon returned to Trimble's house and asked Brian to recount the day he returned home after dinner to find his wife dead. Brian said he found Randy in the garage. She was lying face down on the floor. He kicked her and even stepped on blood. However, when Trimble was first questioned, he said that he did not touch Randy's body. It turned out that his testimony had changed. Soon, the police conducted another search at Brian's house. On his computer, detectives found information that the man, 8 days before his wife's death, visited a website with step-by-step instructions for the crime and then sent this link to Blaine Norris. This was enough to detain the man and bring him in for questioning. However, Brian still denied his guilt, citing an alibi. Experienced detectives understood that there was a criminal in front of them. They chose a strategy to unsettle the man emotionally and force him to confess. Detectives called Trimble daily, peppering him with questions. They came to his house without warning. About 4 months after Randy's death, the police called Brian to the station. He came with his mother. Investigators offered the man a deal. He confesses to the crime and receives life imprisonment instead of the death penalty. A few hours later, Brian Trimble agreed and confessed everything. He asked the mother to leave the interrogation room and talked about how they planned the crime. He said that his colleague, Blaine Norris, killed Randy in the garage. After receiving information, the police went in search of Norris. They searched his house and car. Detectives found a receipt in his car that listed the items he had purchased. Trimble told about them during interrogation. In early January 2003, Norris bought black pants and a t-shirt, gloves, a mask, and a knife, which he later used to stab Randy. Brian Trimble and Blaine Norris were arrested and charged with planning a crime against Randy Trimble. Norris pleaded not guilty. Trimble at the trial tried to accuse the investigators of illegally extracting a confession from him and also believed that his lawyer was ineffective. The men were found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Brian Trimble could have been a free man, with a loving wife by his side who, despite his health problems, supported her husband and helped him. But instead, Trimble will spend the rest of his life behind bars. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel.